Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting from Sydney, Australia. This is the Primodcast. Independent, unfiltered, and uncensored. Beginning in 3, 2, 1.
Matthew, how are you,
Christopher?
mate?
Good, mate. Good to be here again.
Yes, mate, I've been waiting. You're on episode 8, mate, and it looks like you're going to be on episode 10. So, not long, mate, not long between both.
Quick turnaround. I like it.
Yeah, quick turnaround. What's been happening?
Plenty. I think last time we spoke, I was still before the courts with my indiscretion. That has since been resolved, which is a good relief. And then just getting on with everyday life in this crazy world, mate.
Mate, so we spoke about it briefly on some live videos we've done, but mate, run us through what happened, what you did with the playground sign and what transpired after that.
Yeah, so I, during one of Queensland's recent snap lockdowns in August, all the playgrounds were closed. There was a playground up the road from me. The sign had already been removed. It was leaning up against a fence post. I picked up the sign off the ground, documented on my Instagram stories why I think playgrounds should be open, critical element to children's welfare physically and mentally, and parents as well to a degree. Well, not to a degree, to a huge amount with young children. As a parent, I know the reprieve I get taking my son to the park. It's not just for him, but it's for me. It's a little bit of a break, and I know parents all around Australia feel the same way. I subsequently removed that sign, filmed myself putting it in a bin, and was then arrested and charged for stealing. And went through the court process for a couple of months. And it's just recently been resolved, which, as I said, is a good relief.
So I am posting an article with your story in a bit more detail, so people can check that out as well on www.theprimod.com. So I'll publish that around the same time that this podcast goes live. But so you had an interaction on the court date with a police officer, a senior sergeant. There was a bit of a deal struck between yourself and the officer, that you would sort of publicly denounce what you'd done in terms of them
Yeah, well, firstly, that was I wasn't going to run off and talk about that. I was not disappointed, but a bit surprised that went straight to the media from the police. Obviously, I didn't need the police to tell me what I did was not the best way to go about it and unlawful. I think a few days after I put up the Instagram stories in question, I posted another video, explaining that I regretted how I handled myself. I let my frustrations get the better of me. I, wasn't the best way to handle myself, and I still stand by that. Whatever way you look at it, at the end of the day, it was a break of a law. Some people will think it's not a serious matter. That's up to the individual to be concerned with. But yeah, I at the end of the day, I did break the law, and I regret that and wish I didn't do that. But yeah, to then speak to media and international publications, actually, and for the media to then run that story. And I was labelled, I think it was in the article in question, it called me radical. It called it radical behaviour, which I strongly disagree with. Again, I admit that I did something wrong, but I think it's the furthest thing away from being considered a radical. And I mean, it's a bit concerning, I think, when parents who at the end of the day, really just have their child's best interest at heart, and albeit do something, not by the book, get called a radical for that behaviour. It's a bit worrying on what precedence that speaks of labelling people publicly to international media as well. It wasn't the best thing, and I think it's a bit unfortunate that happened.
It's very unfortunate because it sort of sets a precedent in the country as to what we can and can't do. And that sort of what you did now, whether it's right or wrong, technically, legally, it's wrong. But I'm a big believer in every action has an intention behind it. Now, depending on what your intention is, it should be how that action is judged. So, if you're, for example, if you're flying down the highway or wherever you are, flying down the road to get to the hospital because you're not well or your passenger's not well and you're caught speeding, that's different to if you just decide you're fucking hungry and you want to stop off at Macca's, so you fly down to Macca's. Now, same crime, both speeding, but with different intentions behind it. So I think in every crime and every action, you have to look at the intention behind it. And I think the reason why you did what you did was simply from a place of compassion and concern, and definitely frustration, which a lot of us have been feeling. And especially with the climate that we're living in, I would expect the police and other relevant bodies to understand that people are going to do things like this out of frustration. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person, and definitely doesn't mean they're a radical.
Yeah,
It's a fucking joke.
I understand that, I had time to reflect on it, and I do understand the policing point of view of it too. I think the outcome was correct. The charges were dismissed. I think that was 100% the correct outcome. So for that, for the police to give me the warning that they did, then I think you can agree too that that's probably a correct outcome, Chris.
Definitely.
But what was a bit unfortunate, as I said, was to be publicly, again, in an international publication, be labelled radical for that. That's the most disappointing thing. I respect the police's decision in that, in how they handled the case and the outcome of the case, but I don't respect that label of me, and I deny that I can be any way a radical.
No, and I think if that's that officer's definition of radical, then I think he lives in a bit of a bubble, considering there's genuine radicals out there that wish harm on Australians and actively plan and plot horrendous crimes on humanity. To put you in that same category,
that's the disappointing and upsetting thing, mate. So, and again, it's, in one way, it is putting fear into other people who, as you said, have the best intentions. Yeah, you can have the best intentions, you can still break the law. So that's what you've got to be wary of that. The laws are the laws for a reason. I get that, but if someone shoplifts a drink, for example, they're not going to be called a radical.
No, and mate, if there was any other sign, if you would have taken off a no smoking sign or no parking sign, you wouldn't be called a radical. It's because it has to do with the current situation with COVID, the governments, everything else that's going on. They've used you as an example to say, listen, this won't be tolerated, just like they use the protesters as an example in Sydney. That, and the problem that's causing is that you have an entire country that's scared of the government. Now, throughout history, nothing good has ever come from a nation where the people are scared of the government. The government should be scared of the people, because ultimately the people are the ones, we have the power to vote them in, vote them out of parliament and government. At the moment, that's shifted. And now you've got the entire country, in particular, certain states, the entire east coast of this country, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, especially down in Melbourne at the moment, with what's going on down there, dictator Dan Andrews.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a fight line. Like, I wouldn't have done what I did if I knew it would result. I wasn't thinking. I honest to God, didn't think I was breaking a law. Again, I realised I was wrong in that. But it's, how many people is that going to happen to when they genuinely didn't think they were doing anything illegal, because that's what it was at the end of the day. And then, to be considered. The most unfortunate thing, mate, was just going to the media. As I said, I still have no interest in speaking to the mainstream media, and that article was the day after my decision was final. So it was disappointing, to be honest. And I just want to get on with things. I don't, and just go about my life as we all do, the best we can at the moment, which is not easy, because it's constantly adapting and stuff like that. And that has had an impact to me, just that label with my online presence, getting called that is detrimental to my character.
It is detrimental, and I'd also say it's you got a case there for defamation, mate. Because, mate, we've had many conversations, and I can assure everybody listening that you are the furthest thing from a fucking radical. You are a frustrated Australian that's concerned with what's happening. You're concerned with the mental and physical health of people around you, or everyone in general. And what you did wasn't out of malice. You didn't do it as a fuck you to the government. You didn't do it as a, I'm going to destroy this because I want to damage it, damage property. Nothing like that. It was frustration because you see what's happening around you with the mental health and the physical health of everyone, but especially children are being at playground suffering.
It's not getting talked about as much as it should. I mean, it's slowly coming out because of Victoria. There's some great people doing, and some great doctors speaking out, but really it's, page 6 or page 7. It's not page 1 when it should be, when you've got, 300 odd teenagers getting rushed to emergency every day, every week, I think it was, with, self-harm injuries. And you've got kids under 10, showing signs, talking about, some pretty awful things. That needs to be front and center to make people aware. There needs to be more money there. There needs to be, more support. There's not. People in charge are saying, oh, there's helplines and stuff. There's 4, 5, 6 hour waits on some of those helplines. And again, this is no criticism of the people working there. They're amazing. But there's only so many phone calls they can answer. And what are you throwing money at? Tests that are being scrapped in a majority of countries all around the world for not being accurate, at $70 to $200 a test.
Yeah,
that's where that money's going.
Mate,
I think
the world's nuts.
It's better spent elsewhere, to be honest.
Mate, the world's absolutely nuts, and it's not just here in Australia; it's worldwide, excluding a few countries that. But majority of the countries around the world are going through the same thing. Australia at the moment is we're in a very bad place, and I don't know what it's going to take for people to wake up and see what's going on. That it's much more than what's being presented. Now, there's many areas of this. Now, where do you start? There's a shift happening in terms of, I'll go out and say it. So, 2-3 years ago, if you would have come out like Sam Frost came out on a video, an emotional video, and said what she'd said, she would be called, don't get me wrong, she still is being called brave and strong, which she definitely is.
Yeah, but that's all, I mean, and she is, but that's all we would have heard about her, which is great. How great is this? Except now, you have to kind of dig for that information though, don't you?
Well, yeah, you have to dig for it because there's all these other fucking idiots on there that are saying that she's dangerous and that it's. As I put a post up this morning, and I did that post that I put up, I'm sure you would have seen it, about segregation, choice, discrimination, and all the rest of it, because it's driving me insane that these arguments that are being presented are entirely baseless, but it's just flooding social media. It's flooding it, and people reading it, and they're believing it, they're buying into it. And you can't say anything against it. Otherwise, you're considered a a conspiracy theorist or a fucking nut job or whatever it may be.
I mean, for media to actively incite bullying, and there's no two ways about it, that's what they've done. You've had, who's that fucking muppet, Bo Ryan? I only learned his name yesterday because I was reading thing.
Bo Ryan, the former NRL player.
Who is that pigeon? He played some sport, didn't he? I don't even know.
I don't even know what he said. What did he say?
Oh, him and some TV host were going on about Sam and how harmful, and basically inciting bullying, saying he can understand the comments and the frustration of people towards her. Hang on a second. No, you can't understand any hateful comments against anyone, no matter what side of the fence they're on. It's just unacceptable, let alone doing it to someone who has publicly announced that she has mental health issues, runs, a mental health support group. So it's very close to her heart. And then you've got people on mainstream media reaching the masses saying that they can understand the comments towards her. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. I reckon it was only a couple of years ago that there was a massive campaign to try and prevent online bullying, because obviously it's very hard to prevent it. I believe it was a federal campaign. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, Chris. And now you've got media. One particular, you had that Bo Ryan. What an absolute muppet. Says he's got brain cells knocked out of him playing whatever stupid sport he played then, obviously.
I've got to jump on and say that because I haven't seen what he said or heard what he said.
Yeah. So. And then you've got, news.com.au posting videos of trying to counterattack what she said and debate it. Like, no, you that right there, putting that up is inciting.
It is. Hatred. It's inciting hatred towards her, and
But I had to read it. I mean, I did read the comments, and news.com.au got slammed for even posting it, rightfully so.
Turn their comments off again, like they normally do.
Yeah, they turned them off, mate. But the first 50 comments were slamming them, so that's probably
news.com.au are I've said it before and I'll say it again. They're the worst type of journalist. I don't know where they get their writers from or their staff from.
Yeah.
But they're the epitome of scum in this country. They're fucking atrocious. News.com.au, 7 News closely follows that. There's a lot of them. Pedestrian TV, they're just as bad, writing articles for the fucking woke left crowd. And they're getting away with it. Do you know why? Because they're protected under political correctness. If they would have come out and say what they'd said about Sam to Abby Chatfield, A, they wouldn't do it. And B, it'll probably get removed because it's going against somebody who advocates for the national vaccine program. If you advocate for that, you can say it will do whatever the fuck you want online, and you're safe.
Oh, you get paid big dollars too, mate. So
yeah, you do. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been offered it. So there you go. As someone I really hate, I'm not even going to say the influencer word, but as someone with social media presence, I think I view myself as a coach, and no other word, because that's what I am. I was offered money to be a part of a campaign to push something that I have no right to be pushing, and I think everyone else that has no right, no knowledge, should. There's sellouts, mate. That's the bottom line.
They are sellouts. They're selling their, you know what? They're selling their...
But very dangerously selling it, because whatever way you do, whether you're telling someone not to or you're telling someone to do, you can cause that person who might take your word for it, hang on every word you say, you might cause them serious harm. Both sides of the fence, serious harm, whether they don't do it and they get really sick from COVID, or they do it and they get an adverse reaction that lots of people are, and it's not getting spoken about how many people are, but I've had some people close. I don't want to go into too specifics, but let's say very, very, very close to me that have been seriously injured and or passed away very, very soon after. that. So both sides of the fence, if you've got no qualifications, shut your fucking mouth and stop promoting it for money, you rats. Like that's what it is.
They are, and you've got these people have sold, like they're prostituting themselves online to, I don't know who's paying them, but I know they're getting offered money. I'd imagine some sort of advertising agency is funneling them money, or they're getting funneled money from either a government body or wherever they get their money from.
Well, it'd go through agencies, but I think we can all make a fair assumption that who's paying the bills.
So when that's happening, you got these people who are just selling themselves out for money. I don't care how much that money is, whether it's $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month. I've heard some people getting $10,000 a month or more to push the narrative. But none of those people have any qualifications whatsoever. They don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of them probably don't even believe what they're saying. They're just saying it because there's a financial incentive to do it. Now, can you imagine, like, morally, I've lost two sponsors, Matt, for the podcast before it even started because of what I say and what I stand for. And I could have got them back and said, "Oh, listen, I'll change what I say. I'll start talking to different people about different things." But I can't do it. For me, a character is the main. Like, your character is what you are and who you are. If you sell that out for money, you got nothing left, because that money will stop. These people need to realize that. Not that I care, I don't want to help them, but the money will stop, and they're going to have all these people. And if the narrative ever flips from the government, they do it. They turn on people overnight. The mainstream media. Look what they did to Gladys. They were praising Gladys day in, day out, nonstop. And then the minute she resigned, the next day, here's what Gladys got wrong. Here's where she went wrong. Well, they're just slamming up overnight. So, and news.com.au are the fucking best at doing that. They'll flip it. So these people, I've seen them. I know people that started using social media a similar time to myself, who got a bit of a name for themselves doing whatever it was, done some TV interviews, spoke to a few radio shows, then had something go wrong, or they'd done something wrong, and they just completely flipped on them. So it's going to happen to them as well. But you can't bully. If someone doesn't want to get vaccinated, let's make this very clear. If someone doesn't want to get vaccinated, that's their choice. Now, the entire argument of you're being selfish. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you're being selfish. How are you being selfish? Now, let me explain.
Can I just say,
go.
Like, how are you being? Is exactly following on exactly what from you saying. I was just having a conversation with someone, just before I jumped on. It is not being selfish to not want to take something that has no, and there's just no comeback to this. What's the long-term safety data of this? No one knows.
No, well,
you can't argue that.
Their arguments, I've heard a few, and the argument mainly is, well, you know what? Because we needed it so quickly, there was so much money put into the research of it, and but it's like, mate, research doesn't money doesn't buy time.
Mate, I listened to a video the other day of Fauci and Gates, watched it, listened to it. So my own eyes, watching them talk on camera, saying the trade-off to the speed of the turnaround is going to be safety testing. That was the one thing they said. So, of course, there is going to be trade-offs, and that is going to be the safety, the amount of data we have on the safety. That's a pretty big thing, wouldn't you think?
Pfizer are about to do a test in a city in Brazil. I shared that the other day. Because to do some long-term studies on it, to see how it works against different variants, how long it is before the protection wears off. Like, how can you not know those two very fundamental, how it works with other variants and how long does the protection last? You should have that answered before you start pumping that shit into people.
And before anyone tries to say, I'm anti-vax or I'm anti-science, I'm completely not. I'm completely opposite. My son, who is 4, has had all his immunisations. I've had all my immunisations. I'm no troubles with vaccines that are trialled, tested and proven over time. Science is meant to be debated, questioned, theorised, peer-reviewed, none of which, the test of time is the biggest thing, none of which has happened on this occasion. So I'm not anti-anything. I'm not anti-science. I'm being saved from life-saving medical treatment with I went through chemotherapy and had an operation to remove a cancerous tumor. That's science. But that's would I have taken a brand new chemo drug that was only been on the market for a couple of months and with no knowledge of, really what could happen a year, 2 years, 3 years down the track? No, I would have said, have you got anything old for me? Have you got something that's
tried and true?
I'll take one, mate. If they had something that's been around for this, this is very hypothetical, but if they had a vaccine that's been on the market for 5-10 years, mate, I'll stick it in my eyeballs and take it.
Yeah, most of us would.
It's proven the test of time. And that's the majority of people I speak to are just concerned of what it will do. Yeah, the side effects might be rare. I get that. The immediate side effects. But you can't tell me what will happen in 2 years or in 3 years, or to women who are, 15, 16, 17 years old now, what happens when they try and go get pregnant? Because I've listened to some, as have you, I've spoken to some world-renowned professors that are actually getting shunned and censored in all this, are saying that there's, some very serious issues that could come when women want to try and conceive, or, things like that. And no one can answer that now. They can say, oh, it's safe for pregnant women. How do you know? It's been on the market for what, max a year?
Well, define safe. That's the thing. We've got to define safe. And that's what people don't understand. People always say this drug is safe and effective. Define what's safe and effective, because from what I'm seeing from around the world, and we have to people go, yeah, but we live in Australia, not Israel, not Singapore, not the UK. But listen, we're lucky and fortunate enough in this country to be able to see what's happening ahead of time, based on the fact that those other countries rolled the vaccines out sooner and quicker than we have. So let me explain this, Matt, and then we'll get on to something else. But I wanted to make this point very clear, is that, okay, let's just say my next door neighbor, who I don't know at all, he's a 75-year-old man. Obviously, you consider him a vulnerable person. Now, I don't know him at all. Don't know him. I just know he lives next door. Now, if I was to get the virus, COVID-19, there is based on the Australian government statistics. So this isn't no fucking number I'm making up. It's no conspiracy. This is on the government's website. If you break down all the numbers, cases, fatalities, age group, etc., there is a 0.03% chance that I will succumb to the virus. There is a 4% chance, just over a 4% chance, that I'll end up in hospital, and less than a 1% chance that if I did have to go to the hospital, that I'd be in the ICU. Based on those numbers, right, there'd be no benefit for me to take this vaccine. Like, you wouldn't take it at all. Like, if it was any other illness, you wouldn't take it based on those numbers. Now, their argument to that is, yeah, but you're being selfish because it protects others. No, it doesn't protect others. We can see from data overseas, from what's happening in this country now, it's starting to all happen, that you can see time and time again, breakthrough cases, vaccinated people, fully vaccinated people catching the virus, some of them in fact dying, and fully vaccinated people not only giving it to other vaccinated people, but giving it to unvaccinated people. So we know there is no debate that if you are fully vaccinated, you can still get the virus and spread the virus. That's not up for debate. That's fact. So how am I being selfish? Even if I'm fully vaccinated, I can get the virus and spread the virus to Bob next door, who's a vulnerable person. And you know what happens then? I dare say that if Bob had a brain, he'd probably prefer me not to be, because at least he may know, because if there's anything that this vaccine may do, it seems to reduce initially symptoms. After you get it, it seems to reduce the symptoms of the individual. So there's more of a chance of old mate Bob next door knowing that I've got COVID if I'm unvaccinated than if I'm fully vaccinated. So how is it selfish if I make the decision that I don't want to get the vaccine for myself? The vaccine doesn't help others. It doesn't. It still spreads. So it's got nothing to do with whether or not I'm selfish. It's a personal choice. Now, people also say that the government aren't forcing you to take it. Well, they're not forcing you. That's fair enough. They're not pinning you down and sticking it in your arm, but they're giving you ultimatums. You can't go, you can't work. You can't go to fucking Kmart, Big W, wherever you want to go. You can't go out for lunch if you're not vaccinated. So as you know, it's coercion. Now you can't tell somebody like that. A choice has to be in the absence of coercion manipulation.
Informed consent without coercion, I believe, is the rule of what, the Nuremberg Code?
Well, there's many of them that state similar things, but just in principle, you can't say someone has a choice if there's coercion and manipulation or blackmail involved in the situation. That's not choice.
Yeah.
So these people are coming out and saying that, oh, you know, you're being, fuck off. No one's being selfish. No one at all, but you're a self-entitled little fuck that thinks.
You know what else?
But you're virtue signaling. That's all it is. You're a virtue signaler. There's nothing else.
It's all these people, you know, those very same people that you're saying, oh, you're selfish and stuff, you know, while they're sitting at home. I'm abiding by the laws, sitting at home. That's great. So you should abide by the laws. That's what we're saying to do. But then the second that you get that sore shoulder, you're like, footage and stuff that I saw come out of New South Wales. You're outside, you're hugging people at the pub, you know, you're licking people on the face, sharing drinks again, jumping around, hugging and kissing. Fucking just 2 weeks ago, you were telling me that you were doing this to save everyone else around you and that I was a selfish fuck. And now you're out with 30 of your mates licking each other's faces at the pub. Like that. That's got to be putting someone else at risk, doesn't it? Who's fucking selfish now?
Well, apparently no other risk involves no matter what you do, unless it involves COVID, you're not selfish, you're not putting anyone at risk. That's the way the landscape is at the moment. That's why I get fucking angry when you have people like Abby Chatfield, who's promoting the vaccine, how to stay safe in the pandemic, how to protect others.
I'm you know, I don't know her. I
don't know her, but I don't need to know her. I don't want to know her because she's not, listen, she's a cunt of a human being. You can't
I'm sure
sit there.
She's getting paid to do what she's doing too.
Regardless, yeah, I know, but regardless of that, Matt, just because you're getting paid doesn't justify you being a cunt and treating other people like shit. Yeah, I know. I'm making that point. You can't sit there. You had Sam Frost who came out and was very emotional. I could see, even with the fucking sound off, I didn't have to listen to the video to say that she's struggling mentally. For someone like Abby Chatfield, who's got such a large fucking cult-like following, she doesn't have to personally target her. She knows what she's doing when she makes a comment. She knows it's going to trigger her fucking weird left fan base to go and attack that person to the point where Sam Frost removed her social media. So she knows what she's doing. For her to make a video, which I haven't watched it because I can't, I don't want to get chlamydia through my phone, but that video that she posted apparently said, I didn't even do anything. I didn't even do anything. I just said that I choose war today. Oh, whatever the fuck she said. I choose peace today. Sorry. Whatever she went on about. That in itself is going to encourage her twisted followers to start targeting that person.
Well, they did, yeah.
And they did. So she's behind that. So I don't care how much she's getting paid. It doesn't give you an excuse to be a cunt of a human being and to have no compassion, no empathy for others, regardless whether you agree or disagree with her decision. Shut the fuck up. Leave her alone.
And again, and I know you're exactly the same through our conversations. I don't care what someone does. If you choose to get it and you think it's the best decision for you, awesome. Like, really happy for you. If you choose not to get it and you think that's the best decision for you, same thing. Good on you. Well done. But to choose between your job and making an income from your family, like it's so wrong on so many levels. And I can't fathom how people can't see that. Like, how do you not see that?
It's mass propaganda. It's the mainstream media constantly pumping out a narrative. It's the government getting on TV every day, 11 o'clock. It's propaganda. The New South Wales press conferences at 11 o'clock were they were more than they weren't a health update. They were a main event. The people actually waited for 11 o'clock and tuned in. Like, I had people outside of shopping centers stop what they're doing and watch it. Like, it's mass propaganda and programming of the people. And
Do you know
people,
what's crazy? You want to know some crazy numbers?
yeah,
And I've known this, but I got reminded of it today. And this is Queensland alone. One person on average in Queensland is diagnosed with cancer every 20 minutes.
shit.
20 minutes on average, one person with cancer is
Wow.
diagnosed. And that's just Queensland alone. Put that nationwide,
Oh,
it's got to be 5+ every minute then, doesn't it? Or at least 3 or 4+.
easy.
That's insane, is it not?
It is insane. And cancer, like in your case, Matt, I think your cancer was something that was just a unfortunate disease that I don't think you did anything well, you definitely, it's not like a smoker where they get lung cancer when they're 60 and they sort of, that's because they smoked. Yours was random, and it was one of those very unfortunate cases of it happening to young people, really for no reason. And they probably still don't know the reasons behind what causes that type of cancer. So,
Yeah.
but cancer in itself, a lot of it is due to the environment, the pollution in the air, smoking, the chemicals and preservatives in our food. That's where a lot of cancers come from, because cancer was not this prevalent in society fucking 50 years ago, even 20 years ago. It's growing each year. Now, why is that? Because of those things I've just mentioned, but it's going to get to the point where every single person gets cancer at some point, for sure.
Yeah.
Then they're going to start getting younger. Like prostate cancer, it was unheard of. My father had prostate cancer around about 15 years ago now, maybe roughly. Now, at the time, it was unheard of for a man under the age of 40 to even have to worry about it. Now, because my father had it, I have to get checked for it. I just get it checked once a year, the PSA, it's easy blood test, just to see what my PSA level is. And mine's good, thankfully, but there's a lot of men now in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s where their PSA is elevated. Now, that was unheard of when my dad got it 15 years ago. If you went to a doctor, they'd almost tell you, no, what's the point? You're not going to get it.
Yeah.
But it just shows you that disease is progressing. The time of onset, the time the time when you're diagnosed to when it gets out of control and terminal, that's shortening. And oh, man, it's very concerning what's happening.
And not once throughout, and I've been big on this the whole time because, again, and I know you agree with me, I understand people die from this thing. It is very sad. I do know people who have family members who are young and who have got quite ill. Thankfully they haven't died, but obviously people are dying. We're not denying that, but not once has anyone of authority in the government in this country, for sure anyway, can confidently say that, come out and spoken to us about what we could be doing for our health. The food, the nutrition, the stuff that you eat, the exercise, fresh air, sunlight. Like, where's that on their daily fear of numbers? There's 460 odd Australians die every day, rain, hail, or before COVID. That's what happens. That's the number, 460. Put that up on the screen every day and put a percentage of what they're dying from, and it's going to be heart disease, cancer, things like that, which have been proven to be reduced through good nutrition, through exercise and a healthy lifestyle. And not once has any of these maggots stood up and said, given the daily numbers for COVID and said, everyone needs to look at what they're eating, look what they put into their shopping trolley, eat more fruit and vegetables, eat more stuff from the earth, go out and exercise, get your fresh air, still keep your distance. You can still wear your mask if you want, but get out and work on your health through A, B, C, D, E, because all these things have proven the test of time. They do make you better. Not once I've heard that in this country. It is a disgrace. In the Scandinavian countries, who I've got family and friends who live there, they spoke about it. They handled things very differently to us, and life is normal over there and has pretty much remained normal the past 18 months. But they used to speak about it they used to give knowledge to the people of things that they can eat and and things that they can do to better their lifestyle. And they have a much lower rate than we do of all those diseases that me and you have just listed, of heart disease and cancers and things like that. Yeah. So why is that?
Well, let me tell you that there's some interesting studies about the prevalence of dementia, which is obviously a disease that's probably one of the worst diseases you can get. In fact, I've told people close to me that if I ever get it, like, drug me, like, kill me. I don't want to be alive and live like that. Fuck that. But there's a few studies I've read that are quite interesting in regards to the difference of the dementia rates in Scandinavia and Western countries. And based on what I've seen and what I've sort of taken from that, it looks like a lot of that is diet and stress primarily being the big one, because as we know, like, Scandinavia compared to the Western countries, much easier way to live, less stressful, happier. It's apparently a great place to live. Whereas in these Western countries, Australia, the US, the UK, it's a very stressful life just to survive. You got to work your ass off just to survive and get by, let alone be successful. So Sydney's ridiculous in terms of cost of living, is ridiculous for what it is. Like, let's be honest, unless you're in the heart of Sydney, right at the heart of it, Sydney's shit. It's rubbish. It's busy. It stinks. It's fun. It's not, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse.
I can't comment on it. I haven't obviously lived there, so.
Oh man. Yeah. So, but listen, Matt, we all, like, at what point do people like you and I stop getting called a conspiracy theorist for calling out the obvious, that this isn't about health? Because if it was, they'd be talking about the benefits, a set of vitamin D, C, different supplements, diet, exercise, sunlight, all these things. When this first came out, they started the lockdowns. I would think, if I was a premier or anywhere in the government, to be honest, you'd think they would say, okay, well, the first two industries that we need to close, if this is about health, would be tobacconists and bottle shops. The first two that I would think of that can contribute to poorer health would be, well, three. You'd have fast food, you'd have tobacconists and bottle shops. Fast food's a bit different, but definitely tobacconists and bottle shop. But yet, throughout the entire pandemic, while everything else was closed, including gyms, bottle shops and tobacconists have always remained open.
Not only were they open, but they were open because they were deemed essential.
That's right. So you can't sit here as an Australian. Like, I don't know how anyone can sit here and honestly believe it's about health. I don't know how they come to that conclusion that, we're being told the right thing and the government are doing what's right for us. No, they're not. They're not doing it. It's never been about health. It's not. It's about, this is my opinion, it's about control. It's about, and you can see that the people that aren't vaccinated aren't getting punished because they don't want to be vaccinated because of their health. They're getting punished because government would know very well that fully vaccinated people can still spread it. We're getting punished because we've gone against the government. We've gone against the government. That's why we're being punished.
See, talking about it like we are now and things like that, we're expressing our opinion. Which the last time I checked is totally fine, law-abiding, part of a democratic society, except it's becoming less and less. It's almost not. Like, there's a very thin line now. What I know definitely what you can say on social media, what you can say even here, before there's consequences, maybe not legal consequences, because I don't know, to how long? To how long? Like, I'm entitled to my opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. And again, this is, as I said, if someone wants to take it, if someone wants to believe every single word the media and the government say, all right, I don't hate you. I think that you probably need to expand your awareness and get out of the box, because I think if you asked people in 2019, do you trust the media? 90% of people would have said, no, their shit. Probably same with the government. Politicians lie. Media lie. How many people would have said they trust every word the media and politicians say in 2019? Not many.
No. But what really woke me up to this was when I had the police knock at my door and wanted to speak to me about my opinion on social media. And I couldn't, and to this day, I can't understand the purpose of the visit as to why they want to speak to me about my opinion. I don't incite violence. I don't incite anything. I've never once encouraged or incited protests or disobedience or anything like that. I've never encouraged or incited anyone to break the law. Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm speaking my mind, and as an Australian who was born and raised here, I'm concerned about the way this country is going. That's it. I'm concerned about us losing our freedom and concerned about us. If you were to look at countries around the world have spoken out and said that we're pretty much on the way to communism. That's what it looks like from other countries. We're inside of it. I'm telling you, that's what I'm seeing. When you have the majority of the population scared of a government, that's when shit starts going wrong. Throughout history, it's never worked out. It's never been a good thing.
And I think I saw a poll or something the other day. It was something like 80% of people that have been vaccinated have only done it to get back on with their normal life. And I get that, like, far out. I really do. Like, I sympathise with people that they clearly don't want to get it, but they're like, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to go back to work? How am I going to go take my wife out for dinner? Like, things they enjoy. That's shit house, mate. If 80% of people aren't getting it for their health, like, that tells you, they don't actually trust everything, but they're getting forced into doing it, and they're doing it. And I understand why they're doing it for all those reasons, but that's not the country that people think Australia is or was. You know, that can't be right.
Yeah. And that's not. And it's a shame to see the way this country is going. It really is. Like, I used to be proud. I'd still say I am proud. I'm definitely proud of being an Australian, but I'm not proud of the government we have at the moment. If that makes sense.
And people need to stop. People need to stop hating on each other. People need to stop hating on the police. Like, I've got friends in the police, not, in different states. Sure, there's a couple of bad eggs, which you've seen, but there's bad eggs everywhere on both sides of the fence. People need to, it's not you versus, your neighbor on this. It shouldn't be you versus anyone, but to come out and bully people online, to have media attack people, for people to lose relationships, divorce. I've heard stories of that. That's fucked up. Like, come together, like, be more compassionate. As I said, you can see what you've got to put yourself in. If 80% of people are getting it just to get back their freedoms, you can't hate on someone for getting it. If you don't want to get it, sweet, don't hate on them. They fucking sure as hell shouldn't hate on you for not wanting to get it.
Do you know why, Matt? That's why I haven't, and you'll notice this by looking at me, I never target an individual. I never do, unless, and even then, it's not even targeting. It's just giving them back what they've dished out. I'll never come out and bag someone for getting vaccinated, an individual. The people I have a problem with is those ones who get vaccinated and act like they've sacrificed their lives for me and for everyone else. Like, mate, no, You're not a fucking hero. You made a decision. I don't care what anybody says. No one would have sat there in a chair and got a needle in the arm solely to protect other people. No, that's not the way humans work. When have we ever done that? When have we ever in history? Like, there's very few occasions where you'd like whooping cough. I only got that, and I will only get that to protect infants. But besides that, I don't get a flu shot to protect anybody else. I don't get a flu shot, period. But if I was to get it, it's solely to protect the individual getting the flu shot, not anybody else. So stop acting like they need to stop doing it. And that's why I've seen a lot of shit from a lot of people online, influencers, and I know you hate the term, but what else do I call them, mate? They've really got nothing. They'll form a reality show who are now nobodies. What do you call them?
Yeah.
There's no other word for them. So influencers, right, that have made comments about the situation in general. And I haven't said anything because, you know what, they're entitled to their opinion. But when they start targeting people like Sam Frost, obviously I don't know her, obviously, but she's a human being. And guess what? I have this thing. It's called compassion and empathy for other people. And I can't sit back and let people like that talk about not just Sam Frost, but there's been many people where they give their opinion on it. They get slammed for their own opinion.
Yeah.
And then those same people who do the bullying start crying in videos or making responses. Oh, it's quite funny that now, the bullies that are calling me out are now bullying me. You can't bully a bully. You can't bully a bully. That's like if someone at school pushes a kid around and the kid fights back. That kid's not being a bully. He's defending himself. You can't bully a bully. So that's what I mean, though. Those people like that who will do what they want to do, then when they get called out on their bullshit, they want to play the victim. Fuck you. If you can dish it out, you can take it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where just the diversion comes in and the segregation of the community. And there's people jumping up and down that you touched on saying that's not segregation. Segregation is something that they can't help. And you're just privileged and throwing that term around. Like, wake up, stop attacking each other. Why do you like, as you've said, you can still get it. You can still pass it on. Accept people's decisions, accept the way, accept them, accept people for who they are, which we've had. Isn't that fucking crazy that we've had all growing up? We've had that drubbed into us, accept people for who they are and things like that. And now all of a sudden you've actively got media personalities, the government telling you that they're not going to accept you, because by telling you can't go to work, they're not accepting you. You can't earn money because of a certain status. That's not acceptance. And it's just creating a really big divide in the community. I see it all the time. I know you do. I deal with heaps of people daily through my job. I train people online through all walks of life, people in the army, airplane pilots, flying international, police officers, all of them. And when you don't speak about it, I mean, obviously I don't talk about it with that, it works separate, but they've brought it up a few times and they're all saying the same thing. And again, I would touch on all those people like that are having to enforce the laws. They don't necessarily, and you've said the same thing to me, they don't want to be doing that. You've heard them talk about it. You heard that the New South Wales cops came out and spoke about that, didn't they? Say that we can't enforce that.
There's been many officers who have said,
publicly, and
they don't want to do it.
Fuck, mate, I tell you what, I would hate to be a cop at this point in time and have to do some of the things that they're doing. I honestly, it'd be shit, wouldn't it?
I'd have to go. I'd either have to resign or go and leave. I couldn't. You know what? The people who don't necessarily comply with the restrictions, they're not bad people. They're frustrated. They're probably struggling mentally. If you catch somebody at their friend's place, you have to, or their family's house, understand that person has been separated from their family, especially in New South Wales, for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
That's what people don't. They're not a bad person. They've had enough. And if this was any other situation, people would be sympathizing with them. But because it's COVID, that's the problem. It's like everyone's
they get hammered. They get put up in the media like they're the worst human in the world.
The whole thing, Matt, makes no sense, mate. And it's evident in the policies. It's evident in the dates, like Freedom Day. Then there's I think 3 of them. There's one, then there's another one at 80%. There's another one at December 1st. Like the fact they used December 1st, like they used a date to determine when it's safe without knowing what the vaccination rate will be by then. They have no idea.
Yeah.
They're picking a date for when it's safe for people to reintegrate into the society.
Yeah, that's
not science.
Yeah.
That's nothing to do with health. That's a punishment for not complying with their demand. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, because you didn't listen to us, you have to wait 6 weeks extra. Yeah, 6 weeks. That's good enough. That's what they're doing. Because what happens if, as they said, as the new premier said, whom, by the way, I'm not very impressed with so far, but I'll give him a chance. He has come out and said that the date won't be moving for December 1st, but yet the date for the 80%, they're going to jump. They're jumping between Monday coming and the following Monday, depending on where the rate's at. So how can you change that, but not change December 1st? If we want to hit 80% a week sooner, shouldn't we bring the December 1st date a week earlier? That's logical.
Well, I think you know the answer to that one, and that's because there's a certain percentage of the community that is getting told off like a naughty school children and getting punished.
There was an article on news.com.au. I have to try and find it. The headline was something along the lines of, now with freedom back, how can you make sure you're not mingling with unvaccinated people?
No way.
Yeah, mate, honestly, that was their headline of their article. I'll jump on and try to find it. Where are we at? I was reading it. I'm thinking, what the fuck is that? That is straight. What's the word? It's drawing the line more down the middle of society between the vaxxed and unvaxxed.
Yeah,
that's all that's doing. They know what they're doing. Of course, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a shame, but it's also a concern.
There was so many articles that I've read that were along those lines of how to protect yourself from unvaccinated people, how do you make sure you're not mingling with them in the community? Well, listen, just because somebody's unvaccinated, this is a news flash for everyone. This is breaking real news, though, real news. Just because somebody's unvaccinated does not mean they have the virus. It does not mean they're sick. It does not mean they're contagious. Just because somebody's unvaccinated people assume that as soon as someone, oh shit, they might give me the virus. I'm 99% sure that person doesn't even have the virus. What are you worried about? Like that's the frame of mind people are in at the moment. And I don't know what's going on as to why people are so gullible and falling for this shit, how they don't see through it. Like, how hard is it?
I don't know, mate.
It's pretty obvious to me that nothing adds up. Nothing makes sense. And when you have that many concerns, and as you said, 80% of people only got it because they wanted their freedom back or to go back to work, etc. When there's that many people skeptical about getting something to protect themselves or others, you have to ask why. Why is everyone so skeptical?
Yeah.
And it's not because of the, quote, anti-vaxxers online. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with the fact that the data that's being brought forward to us, people aren't buying it. People are going, well, yeah, okay, but it still doesn't seem like I should really have to be overly concerned about it. Most people are over it. Yeah. Most people aren't worried about it anymore.
No, and that's why, I just want to keep doing what I've been doing and advocate for mental health and physical health. That's my job, in a legal way. Again, one last time, I shouldn't have done what I did. I am regretful, but people need to get out there, get away from the TV, get away from screens, and do what they can to look after their health, because people that you watch on the TV screens, they don't care about you and your family.
No,
at the end of the day, the people making the rules don't care about you. The people enforcing the rules, sure. I've got no doubt that, the medical staff, police, firefighters, all those emergency service people, mate, to do that job, you've got to have compassion, don't you? That's why you go into it, to look after the people. So yeah, they do, but the rules that they are following, the orders from their bosses, they don't give two fucks. So people need to put their own health in their own hands, turn off the TV, and get on with what you can control. And that is that very fact of your own health.
Definitely. The fact that Instagram banned the hashtags sunshine, natural immunity, like they banned sunshine. I don't know if it's
I've
still
not-
banned or not. But when I was talking to Dr. Campbell the other week, he was telling me that it was banned. Sunlight, sorry, not sunlight. Sunlight was banned.
Okay.
Now, is this really about health? Because why would you ban that?
Yeah.
There's many
Well,
things
again-
that point in that direction. So I think people need to wake up and just do a bit of their own homework, bit of their own research. Sure, there's nuts out there who make up shit and create
Yeah.
drama that doesn't exist. But at the end of the day, that's not everybody. There are genuinely good people out there like yourself, Matt, who are trying to do the right thing by everybody and just standing up for what you believe in, mate. So well done.
Thank you, mate.
But mate, we'll sign off here anyway. But Matt, as a pleasure, mate. Oh, sorry, always a pleasure, should I say?
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Christopher, always.
And we'll definitely do this again, mate.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.